Now, death is a part of most video games, but generally players expect to kill their way through a fleet of anonymous goons, a handful of bosses, and maybe a big bad at the top of the food chain. It's actually much rarer for a video game to have one franchise protagonist end up killing another, because how often does that make any sense? Well, let's have a chat about it. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 times that main characters killed each other. Number 10. Shay Cormac killed Adewale, Assassin's Creed Rogue. Freedom Cry is a standalone DLC for Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag set more than a decade after the main game, in which players take control of Black Flag's fan favourite support character, Adewale. Although Adewale survives the events of the DLC, he isn't actually long for this world regardless, as in the next game in the series, Assassin's Creed Rogue, well, sadly, our new lead offs him. Rogue revolves around Shay, a former assassin who turns against the Brotherhood to instead help the Templars hunt them down. This inevitably leads him into conflict with Adewale, who poses quite the threat to the Templars, and so players are eventually tasked with taking him out. Unlike many games on this list, you actually have to do the dirty work yourself rather than simply observe the fateful moment from a cutscene peanut gallery. You sneak up behind Adewale and shank him of your own accord before getting to witness his death cinematic. Number 9. Heihachi kills Kazuya, Tekken 2. Though the Tekken franchise by its nature offers up a roster of playable fighters, each game nevertheless has a defined story protagonist and antagonist. In the original Tekken, our hero was Kazuya Mishima, who entered the King of Iron Fist tournament to get revenge on his own father Heihachi by defeating him. And that he most certainly did, though by the time Tekken 2 rolled around, he had succumbed to the influences of his devil gene, in turn acting out of pure evil. And so this time the story protagonist is Heihachi himself, who recovers from the pasting he took in the first game and enters the second King of Iron Fist tournament in an attempt to defeat his son and regain the company he stole from him. Heihachi succeeds at the game's end, but he doesn't stop at merely brutalizing and embarrassing his son. No, instead, to finish the job, he takes his own progeny's unconscious body and lobs it into a volcano, bringing him to an apparently permanent end. And while he does indeed die, obviously Kazuya makes a glorious return in Tekken 4, having been fished out of the literal flaming hot drink and resurrected through genetic experimentation nonsense, because why the hell not? Number 8. Vito kills Tommy, Mafia 2. Though Mafia 2 is mostly a standalone sequel, it offers up quite the unexpected surprise during a late-game story chapter, where protagonist Vito and his best bud Joe are sent to assassinate a rat. This rat just so happens to be Tommy Angelo, the protagonist of the first Mafia game, who ended up testifying against the family in exchange for a reduced prison sentence and witness protection for his family. Though players don't get to pull the trigger on Tommy themselves, they do get to watch a grisly cutscene where he is blown away. It's an especially fun twist, considering we all previously saw Tommy's death play out at the end of the original Mafia, though of course we had no idea who those two random hitmen were. This was a pretty neat way to tie a meaningful thread between the two games without overdoing it, and it won't be the only time that the Mafia franchise shows up on this list. Number 7. Clem kills Lee, Telltale's Walking Dead. Telltale's The Walking Dead offers up one of the most heartbreaking instances of this example, because there's absolutely no malice at all in one main character's decision to kill the other. Players spend the vast majority of the episodic adventure's first season controlling Lee, but near the end of the penultimate episode, he's bitten by a walker, dooming him. And so the season finale ends with a shift of perspective to Lee's surrogate daughter Clem, as players must choose whether to shoot Lee before he turns into a walker or leave him be to become one. While players don't need to kill Lee, and you can argue he's basically dead anyway, the post-episode player choice survey makes it clear that the overwhelming majority of people did decide to put Lee out of his misery, rather than let him shamble around as one of the undead. From this point on, regardless of which ending you choose, the rest of the mainline series follows the adventures of Clem as its true protagonist. Number 6. Vincent and Leo can kill each other, A Way Out. A Way Out is a totally unique entry on this list because it's actually a single one-off game with mandatory two-player co-op. Each player controls one of two convicts, Leo or Vincent, as they stage a daring prison break in their quest for freedom. But because this is a co-op experience from Joseph Fares, the genius behind Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons, of course there's a brutal sting in the tail. At the end of the game, Vincent is revealed to be an undercover FBI agent, leading to an epic showdown between him and Leo, forcing players to turn against one another. The fight climaxes in both men reaching for a gun, and depending on which player reacts fastest, one character will end up shooting and killing the other. That is one hell of a way to create arguments amongst friends. Number 5. Solid Snake kills Big Boss. Metal Gear Solid 4 Guns of the Patriots. Metal Gear Solid 4 Guns of the Patriots concludes with a battery of big surprises. Perhaps most shockingly of all, the Big Boss, the protagonist of the previous game in the series, which was a prequel, is still actually alive. He unexpectedly shows up for an expository chinwag with Solid Snake at Arlington National Cemetery in the game's basically feature-length ending cutscene. Once they're done gassing, Big Boss informs Snake that he himself is not long for this world, as the new strain of foxdie virus coursing through Snake's body was programmed by the Patriots to kill 3 people: Eva, Ocelot, and Big Boss. And so after imploring that Snake must make the most of his remaining time and find a reason to keep living, Big Boss finally unambiguously expires at the grave of his own mentor, the Boss. While you can technically say that the Patriots really killed Big Boss, Snake was still the delivery system, and without his proximity to Big Boss, he wouldn't have shuffled off his mortal coil quite so soon. Number 4. James killed Alex. Prototype 2. The first Prototype game revolved around an amnesiac shapeshifter called Alex Mercer, while the sequel puts players in the shoes of ex-US Marine Sergeant James Heller. Heller isn't just a new protagonist, he's got a special bone to pick with Mercer, who he blames for the death of his family during a new outbreak of the Blacklight virus. More to the point, Heller himself is infected with a strain of the virus which allows him to go toe-to-toe with a super-powered Mercer, leading to an epic battle at the game's end. Heller eventually manages to subdue and defeat a maniacal Mercer, finishing the job by consuming his essence and absorbing his memories, in turn saving the day and becoming the new dominant force on Earth. The anti-hero to villain pipeline may not be all that original, but having the new main character basically ingest the old one, well, that is definitely a neat trick. Number 3. Abby killed Joel. The Last of Us Part 2. The Last of Us Part 2 certainly can't be called a safe or complacent sequel. It is a game which dared to make some big, bold choices. While the first game saw players control Joel for most of the story, Part 2 largely splits its epic playtime between Joel's surrogate daughter Ellie and a brand new character, Abby. Several hours into the game, Abby makes a shocking name for herself when she captures Joel and beats him to death in front of Ellie in revenge for Joel murdering her father, the Firefly surgeon who was meant to operate on Ellie at the end of the first game. Of all the instances of a new character murdering a prior one, none caused quite the furore that Abby's killing of Joel did. It was a polarizing creative decision on Naughty Dog's part for sure, but also a fearless and uncommonly provocative one. Number 2. Trevor Phillips kills Johnny Klebitz. Grand Theft Auto 5. The Grand Theft Auto 4 expansion, The Lost and the Damned, made its biker protagonist Johnny Klebitz a fast fan favourite, and by the time its story wrapped up, things seemed to be, well, actually looking up for him. But all this character growth was basically tossed in the garbage in Grand Theft Auto 5, as Johnny makes a brief cameo appearance that not only reveals he's backslid into depravity, but it culminates in him being taken off life's chessboard altogether. At one point, a strung-out Johnny angrily confronts one of the game's 3 protagonist, Trevor, about having sex with his on-again, off-again girlfriend, Ashley. Trevor naturally responds by making light of the situation before grabbing Johnny, throwing him to the ground, bottling him, and then stomping on his head until he's no more. Needless to say, given Johnny's popularity among the GTA fandom, many felt affronted that Rockstar killed him off so casually, effectively feeding him to Trevor to cement just how unhinged our new protagonist really was. And number 1, Lincoln Clay kills Vito. Mafia 3. And finally, to circle back to the Mafia franchise now, Mafia 3 pulls the very same gambit that Mafia 2 did, by having its protagonist kill the previous game's main character. Now, to be clear, Mafia 3 at least gives you something of a choice in the matter, as only certain gameplay decisions can actually trigger this outcome. Basically, you need to piss off your underboss enough, so much so that they decide to betray you. But of course, one of these underbosses just so happens to be, you guessed it, Vito, the main character from the second Mafia game. This betrayal will lead to a confrontation between Vito and new protagonist Lincoln, ending up with Lincoln shooting an angry Vito right in the head. Even accepting that Vito killed Tommy in the past is certainly not a satisfying feeling to enact the same fate upon him, though it's hardly a surprising consequence of the gangster's life. And there we go, my friends. Those were 10 times main characters killed each other. I hope you enjoyed that, and let me know what you thought about it down in the comments section below. As always, I've been Jules. You can go follow me over on Blue Sky, where it's at RetroJ, but the O is a 0. Hope to speak to you soon. Hope to see you over there, and I hope you're treating yourself well, my friends. Big love to you all, and I'll catch you in a bit. Bye.